sliding into something else that's very American. You are looking at putting together a syllabus to teach the history of baseball.
Yeah. So it's very early in that process. I've just started, I've been wanting to do this for a while. Whenever you start to put together a syllabus for a class like that, there's a lot of reading of books that you get halfway, 3/4 of the way into, and you're like, I find this interesting, but this isn't a good book for my students. So you end up reading just a ton of material, and then you have to kind of cut it down to the best, chapters out of all of these books that I could put in and have it be required reading. The theoretical part of why I kind of want to teach this course is I love baseball. It's my favorite sport. And I see this very, very intimate relationship between our country and the sport of baseball. And we can see changes through politics. We can see changes through race. One of the main reasons why there's so much signs in baseball is because deaf baseball players. So there's a huge relationship between disability and the sport, which is my career path. So that's something that's really fascinating and interesting to me. There's a lot of Americana and folklore that goes into the sport, and a lot of our legends, right? We talk about the Great Bambino. It's almost bigger than life, some of these stories. So I think that it's a fascinating way to kind of approach American history through this alternative lens that a lot of students aren't often given. And a lot of students are if history is not their primary interest, they're a little standoffish to kind of approaching a history class because they think it's just going to be the same as their high school history class, and they're going to be memorizing names and dates, and they're going to be bored. But when they see, history of baseball, right, it sparks that curiosity and that interest a little bit more for them. I have found with other classes that are similar, courses that are similar. So that's the idea that I have in place. I've been working with the history department, trying to figure out when a good time to teach it would be, fall or spring, and really trying to hammer out a thorough, complete syllabus that would cover all the bases that I want.
Yeah.
But
bases.
love it. But also remain interesting for the students, right? I don't want to.
Yeah.
You never want your history course to just be, especially for undergrads, so much reading that they just give up and don't do the reading. Because why are you there? So I want to keep it interactive enough for them to enjoy it, but also I don't want to trick them into rediscovering a love, right, for history that they may have lost or never developed in.
So you're using a sport as a vehicle to get them more interested in history and important things. Yeah.
Yeah. You could talk. There's so much. I have personal stories from interviews that I've conducted with World War II veterans who talk about when they were overseas and waiting on bases before Normandy, right? That they're playing pickup baseball games in England, or they're bringing their mitts with them. This one veteran had passed away, and his son was kind of going through some of his dad's old stuff and selling some of it off. And he had his dad's World War II catcher mitt that he brought with him to the war. And he's like, yeah, you seem like a nice guy, you love baseball, you just have this. He's like, I'm a veteran, my dad was a veteran. He would want this to go to someone that would appreciate it. You seem like you appreciate it. So I worked with him and we figured out stuff on the side. But that's one way we could go. We could go the disability and signs way. We could go the obvious integration of the sport. We could go the economics of baseball and the changes of being able to go to a game for nothing or for pennies in the early 1900s to where we are today, where it has really become such a commercialized, constant profit, astronomical amount of money in the sport. I think it just really embodies our country in a lot of ways, and it covers all of these important moments. So I can kind of connect baseball to anything if I try hard enough.
When did the MLB start?
It started the early. There was the American League and the National League were different like sub leagues that weren't necessarily part of this
Okay.
unified like Major League Baseball league, and those trace themselves back to a lot of the teams are different. You can trace it back to right around like the 1860s ish. It's tough because a lot of those leagues kind of grow into different teams. So
is that why like winning the pennant is considered a big thing? Because the National League and American League, they were separate.
right. So
Yeah.
it was like winning the pennant was winning essentially the World Series, right?
Yeah.
And now we have this larger league where we have both these smaller leagues together and they play each other, and now the winner of everything comes together. So.